How's it going, guys? It's Cryptobud here for today. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about, is it too late to actually make some massive gains in Bitcoin? And this video is going to be more about anybody who's coming into the space. If you just got on right now and you are entering into the Bitcoin cryptocurrency market, there's a lot of things that people are always asking me. One of them is like, can we still make massive gains like people did back a while ago? Is this too late? Forget about the bubble, question. But more importantly, it has to do with this idea of making some serious money. I'm not talking about 20%, 30%. I'm talking about wealth changing money. And every single time I tell people, people always ask me that same question, and I always tell them the same answer. I said, it is, but it's a lot harder than what it was a couple of years back. And one of the problems with coming in with any investment is that if you're late to the game, the rule is that you, generally speaking, are going to make less money than the person before you just because they were there first. All right. That goes with anything that you're buying in. So with that in mind, I get the next question I always get a lot is, how many coins should I follow? And out of those coins that I follow, which are the ones that are going to be winning? And so obviously, if I had a crystal ball, I would tell you those coins, but unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. What I usually tell people is this: have like 5 coins or 10 coins that you're going to follow 100%. And you're not going to sway for them. You're just going to keep on adding as you go. And I know I do trade pretty actively, but I do have my core holdings that I always keep, so that in the event that this market takes off, I'm not going to be out of the trade. The worst thing you want to have is basically have coins that you're in and out all the time. All right, so let's take a look at the first part. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the state of the market going into 18, and a little bit going into some of the individual coins that I think potentially could be runners. But more importantly than selecting coins, I want you to think about how I'm choosing these coins, because that's actually more important for you to learn, and more importantly for me to be able to rationalize the decision. So hopefully this becomes more of a partnership type of video. All right, so today is the 28th. We're only about a couple of days before the official kickoff for 2018, and so far the market has been very, very quiet. With the stock market, with any sort of investment market, everybody's out on holidays mode. So I don't expect any sort of big news coming out, especially what I'm finding out is a lot of people are pushing out their news out till January, a lot of these coins, all these companies. And the reason why is because they want to maximize the investing environment. So what you'll find is a lot of the roadmaps and a lot of the things that are happening are all going to be pushed out usually for January, because they don't want to interfere with the holiday season and whatnot. So keep that in mind as you're going forward. Okay, so this is called Bit Screener. I actually like this one better than CoinMarketCap, just because you got a screener here that can kind of move through things, and it gives a little bit cleaner outlook. So try using that one a little better. So the first thing I always look for is trends, right? What I'm seeing right here is it looks like people are focusing on Binance, which I talked about on this channel way back when, and when it was about $1. Right now it's trading at about 10. Cardano, which I have indicated on my trading room a little bit about Cardano. We've also talked a lot about Ripple. People are talking about rail blocks, which is interesting, and Verge, of course, which has been the highlight of this month, the Verge pump, I'm gonna call it. And then definitely a little bit on Tron, going on to what's happening in Twitter. So this actually gives me a really good idea of some of the trends happening currently. And most likely what's probably going to happen is these are going to go to the wayside next month. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Okay, on the winners and the loser side. So here's what I'm seeing right now. This Z Classic privacy coin theme that I was talking about before is going to be extremely heavy going into 18. In fact, I think privacy coins are going to be the key theme going into early next year, just because with the increased regulations, with the issue with governments, things like that, I think, and Bitcoin's problems, I think people are going to be looking away from Bitcoin. So what you're going to find is things like this, 210% on Z Classic, which to some people, this was actually not expected. It was very expected. But this is definitely something you'll see right here. On the recent views, what I see here is that you see that Ripple is definitely chugging a lot higher. And I think that Ripple is going to be a very good long-term holding, at least for me, because it is, I think it's going to be listed on Coinbase. I think it's just a matter of time, really. And again, our favorite Dash, and over top 5 coins you'll see. Okay, so moving along to, I really like this heat map because this is really interesting. It just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of how large things are. So as you can see, Bitcoin is taking a very good chunk of the overall market. Excuse me. And usually when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious in Ether and XRP taking in your second places and a bunch of the little small ones up here. So these are called my big cap coins. And the big cap coins, you don't normally find that pretty much these big cap coins are going to be leading the market. So I usually look at my leaders first before I move over to the small coins. And I think that's where a lot of people tend to kind of focus too much on the small coins and not forget about the leaders, because the leaders definitely decide what's going to happen. You can kind of see right here some of the great gains, like Stratus went 25%, Populous, Waves. I mean, this is a really nice clean interface. You got some of the smaller coins down here at the bottom. Okay, so the first thing I want to ask, let's go back to the charts real quick. And what I'm seeing here is on the last video, I was talking a little bit about this potential for this trend line. So if you watched that video, watch it again, because I was basically predicting that we were going to hit this trend line, this yellow line that I have up here. And if you kind of draw this carefully, you can kind of see that we've established, you know, depending on where you kind of put the line here, but I just kind of drew it this way just to show you where it's kind of sitting on right now. And it's sitting at about a 13.3 fib, which is usually a very common level. Usually what happens is that the longer it kind of mingles in here, basically what happens is that the likelihood of it dropping is very high. So I was talking about the slingshot effect last time, about how when the market falls this fast, the harder it falls, then you have this kind of rebound back to the mean, also called the mean reversion, sorry. And we did have that. We did have that massive slingshot. So I was able to pick up some here at this level and then rode it back up. And then now we're back down to this little area here. On the technical level for Bitcoin, the problem we have right now is that we're not really establishing an enough trend line. I mean, we're still kind of consolidating here a little bit, but there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of the price. And one of the things I don't like to go into is a lot of uncertainty, especially when prices are like this. Now, as a long-term investor, it shouldn't really matter. So if you're a long-term investor and you're looking at just Bitcoin overall, it doesn't really matter, because in the grander scheme of things, I think we're going to be a lot higher than 20,000 in the next couple of years. Now, on the shorter side, if you are fixated on maximizing your Bitcoin, meaning that you want to buy some more Bitcoin, then definitely looking at this trend line is super important. I usually look at trend lines because, again, everybody looks at it. So it's no magical formula or nothing really complicated, no mathematical thing. It's just that everybody's looking at the same level. So what's happening here is that 13.3 is kind of like what the traders are looking at. And by the time it breaks that, then we're looking at the 11.4 mark. Now, here's the problem. I usually don't like to have this type of situation, right? So two things can occur, and I know it's not going to help you. Either we break the trend or we're going to bounce back up. Now, looking at the overall calendar here, the likelihood of actually going higher at this point is actually not as high as waiting till January for the reasons I stated earlier. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin's valuation or anything. It's just basically people are not at home, you know, trying to press a buy button, especially when they're spending time with family. So remember that the crypto market is very, very retail oriented, meaning that there's a lot of people like you and me who are buying these coins. Excuse me. And what happens is that they do take vacations, they do take breaks and things like that. And the fact that it's a 24-hour market makes it a little bit more volatile, but at the same time, you know, the holiday season kind of puts that in. So most people are not going to be trading in and out. So I don't expect price fluctuations to be moving too high or too low in the next couple of days. Now, again, that's a maybe, because if the market begins to tank, then obviously everybody's going to get on their phone and they're going to start selling or buying or whatever. So usually that's what technically happens. Now, if you take a look at the old, let's just go back in time a little bit. Back in, you know, actually, if you kind of go back to January or December, actually, let me put the log one up here. So if you go back to last December, around this time around, we did have a Christmas rally. It was on the 23rd. And then we kind of had this massive sell-off in there. So going into New Year's, we had a massive rally. So potentially we could have something like that. And then all of a sudden you have a massive sell-off in January. And that usually is people taking profits or whatever the case is. So there is a possibility that we can get a repeat of this. It's not 100% for sure, but if anything, it would be a great buying opportunity once we hit this level. So again, back in January 16th, going to 17, we had this massive drop and then leading us into the first quarter. So that was actually a very interesting part. Going in and comparing that to this year, and again, I don't want to go too far out because usually the thing is, so we actually had a rally starting in November and we kind of petered out on the 12th, which actually, technically speaking, could set us up for a nice rally going into January. But again, it really depends on the market sentiment. But looking at the overall trend line that I just kind of drew earlier, we do have some downside risk right here. So that's where I'm kind of worried a little bit that we may drop to this 11,500 mark. So that's kind of like what I'm looking at right now. And that's why I'm a little bit concerned in the short term. Now we do see a little bit of the oversold levels on the RSI lines, which usually indicates that there's going to be a bounce. So again, at this point, it's like no man's land. So keep that in mind. Okay, so let's take a look at how, going back to the video, prompt here, can you still make money in Bitcoin? Going back to this idea of Bitcoin, right? This is actually not a price chart. It's actually an adoption curve. So the price actually is reflecting on the number of users being adopted into that. And you probably heard that around a lot about people saying, well, is this a price chart or is this price reflecting on the actual utility of the coin? And this is more about early adoption phase, which is very different from price and actual real product. So yes, Bitcoin has a problem with transaction. Yes, it has a problem with fees and it has a problem with speed. The difference here is that Bitcoin actually is a store of value and it's in the early adoption phase. And so when you have a coin in the early adoption phase versus something that's already been established, there is a different type of price pattern that's correlated with that. So what I'm trying to say overall is this. Yes, we are definitely overbought in the short term. Long term, this is a adoption curve. So we're going to get the J curve. We're going to get that maturity phase, and we're going to get the exponential run up. So long term wise, you can still make a lot of money in Bitcoin. The problem is that it's not going to be as easy as it was before, meaning you're not going to be a millionaire. You're not going to be a deca millionaire or 10, 20 millionaire, because the problem is that the prices run up so much already. And even if you're on the adoption curve, Bitcoin's going to have to run to the $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 range, which is very, very possible. But like I said before, you want to get as many of those coins as possible. So I would say that for Bitcoin, it's kind of a little tough. Not to say it's impossible, but it's a little bit tougher to do. Now, on the other side is going to be your smaller cap names. And I've been talking about Binance here for the longest time in this channel. For those guys who watch my video on Binance, please go ahead and watch it. It's basically covers Binance way before people start talking about it. So I recognized the value back then, and I still continue to see the value in Binance now. Now, Binance is not paying me or not giving me anything for this. I recognize the platform. I did it, and then here's what it is. What's happening right now with Binance, guys, is this. A lot of the tokens that are pre-ICO that have been moved from the ICO phase, post-ICO, and now getting on it, they're all hitting Binance first, majority of them, not to say all of them. And what's happening is that there was a lot of pent-up demand because of the KYC regulations. So what happened here is a lot of people were not able to buy the ICO because they are restricted by their governments. So what's happening is that you're building up so much demand in the short term and also in a couple of months that once it gets listed on Binance, the coin explodes. Usually what happens is that the market has mispriced it. And what I mean by that is that because you have segments of the world right now that are restricted from doing ICOs, you have the money is being flooded into Binance because they're just waiting for the coins to get listed. For whatever reason why Binance can do this, what it's creating is a massive, massive attraction of capital. So what you're seeing on Binance is not a coincidence. When you see things like this, let me give you an example. 100% for Lend, 38% for RCN, Verge is up 34, QSP 28. This type of gains that you're finding right here is very, very, very difficult to find in something like Bittrex. And the reason why I say that is because although these coins did come off the ICO a while ago, maybe a couple of months ago, what had happened is people are finally realizing what they are, and then they're flooding into the market. And because the information is asymmetric, meaning that some people were not looking at the coins during the ICO, what's happening now is that they are coming in and they're plowing more money in. So what you're seeing is these 34% gains, 50, 60% gains every other day. I've never seen this before. In fact, when I saw this, I alerted my members and everybody in there to take a look at these coins, because that was the one where I think the future of money is going to flow in. And Bittrex has actually halted a lot of these new users. So now what you're having is a double whammy effect, which is basically saying, okay, look, you couldn't get into the ICO because you're a US investor or Singapore or whatever country you're at, not Singapore, sorry, let's just say Canada or whatever country. And now you get access to that. Oh, and by the way, Bittrex is not accepting new users. So then the only place people are going to go is here. And I predict that once Coinbase, the longer Coinbase halts their altcoins, the more money is going to flood into Binance. Once Coinbase lists their altcoins, obviously that's going to kind of peter stuff out here. But right now they have a monopoly. These guys have a monopoly literally on the post-ICO market. Also, what happens is that these coins are actually microcaps or usually lower cap coins, which basically provides even more volatility. I mean, this is crazy. 95% for Lend. I mean, 15 cents, 20 cents. Okay, so anyway, so my point I'm trying to make here is this. Can you still make money in crypto? Absolutely. I mean, I think it's just a matter of where to look and how to place yourselves. There are a couple of coins in here that I like, and one of the coins I definitely like is Cardano. I mean, Cardano has been a top performer in the past, and I think it's one of those coins that's going to do very well. Another one that I'm looking at here is LRC, Loopring, which was delisted off of Binance, and now it's coming back up again. And there's several of them in here that I think are really interesting to see. A lot of your cheaper coins, like for example, if you go down to this list, like anything under $1, between $1 and $2, like these coins are moving fast. And again, there's a lot of risk, but there's a lot of reward. So something like, for example, like Substratum, you know, the one that I did for the ICO, the one I was kind of talking about a while back, has done very, very well post ICO. I think it was like something like 5 cents or something, and now it's already at $1.20. Power Ledger is in here, which I think I really, really love. There are other coins that I was looking at, like RCN. Anyway, so not to say that they are like crap coins or shit coins or any of those. What I'm trying to say is that the coins on here need some time to establish themselves. And in the meantime, they're just kind of lingering around, waiting for the public to get to know them. And once they run, they're going to run hard. Now, another example is like CMT, like CyberMiles. I did that. I did an ICO for that. I did a review for that. Anyway, as you go up the line, you can see that some of the usuals are up there. Like, for example, Dash, Ethereum, you know, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is, right now we are in a very perfect spot, because all the issues happening with regulation, all the issues happening with coins being delisted and not being, you know, put on, and Binance seems like they've got some sort of exclusive partnership with these coins because no other exchange lists them. That actually creates a lot of opportunity for anybody who's looking carefully. So take a look at it, do your homework, right? Like I said before, see any of the coins in here. Obviously, some people like to focus on these, but if you're a newbie and you're just barely beginning the altcoin market, take a look at Binance. I think it's a great place to start off with. You all have your Coinbase accounts, which is great. That's just basically getting you in, and then moving to the next exchange, which is an altcoin exchange, is going to provide. And Binance has basically been adding coins left and right. I mean, they've increased the number of coins literally just like every other day they keep on adding coins in there. So another one I really like is obviously ICX. I was talking about that on my live stream before. I think they're going to be doing very well. Some of these coins are still under like $10. So remember I did the video on Neo, right? That was a great example. Like I caught Neo before $10 and now it exploded. So there is a lot of, I think, opportunity. You just have to kind of figure out what you're looking at and take a look at it. All right, guys. Okay, so Cryptobud out. Again, not financial advice, and I do hold these coins, so just letting everybody know in case people accuse me of pumping or shilling or whatever. And this is my own advice. I'm not a financial advisor. There are losses. There are major losses that can be done from just buying some of these coins. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great night.